All right, welcome to First and Pod. Week 5 just wrapped up. I think we all experienced the longest NFL Sunday that turned into a Monday in league history. It began all the way back at 9:30 in the morning, and we are taping this podcast after 1 a.m. Monday morning. Andrew Fillipponi with Patrick Peterson, our guy Spencer Ray producing. Tell your friends, listen and subscribe to First and Pod on the Odyssey app, wherever you get podcasts, because we watched all these games. Maybe at one point you went to bed. Maybe you woke up late Sunday morning and missed some of the London game. Either way, we're all over it. I'm in Pittsburgh, so I knew that this lightning delay was coming, Pat. And then we had to sit and wait around for an hour and a half, only to watch the Cowboys win what amounted to almost a walk-off touchdown on fourth down. Dak Prescott to Jalen Tolbert. My first thought on this game, Pat, is this. Neither team deserved to win. I thought both teams played enough mistake-laden football where, whether you're Mike McCarthy or Mike Tomlin, Big Mike is happy that he's leaving his hometown Pittsburgh with a win going back to Dallas, but he can't be thrilled with the way his team played. And for the Steelers, they lose, even though offensively, again, the first half was just abysmal. They had 19 passing yards after the first half of this game, and it came alive a little bit in the second half. But this defense, Pat, that you were part of last year, which makes a lot of money and has a lot of stars, didn't give up a ton of points, but late in the game, critical possessions, they just could not get the stops to win it.
Yeah, it was like you said, it was a weird game. Especially when it boiled down to the end. What a great finish, first and foremost, by the Cowboys by marching the ball all the way down the field, taking up a lot of the game clock, so it didn't leave Pittsburgh with anything. And Dak pretty much showed why he's a $50 million quarterback, $60 million quarterback. Excuse me. His team relied upon him when they needed him the most, and he delivered. But yeah, late in that quarter, it just seemed like the guys in the back end wasn't in tight enough coverage to make those plays that we saw them make all year long, especially down to that fourth down play. I thought the defense did a great job of defending every blade of grass on that last drive. Who made that play on the running back?
Roberts.
Landon Roberts. Yeah, Landon Roberts, amazing play to give
He looked
his
like
team.
Troy Polamalu on that
Yeah,
play.
yeah, it looked like Superman as well. So a great play to give his team an opportunity. Dak defense ended up forcing the incomplete, taking it into third down. Then they ran the old school's crosser for the third down, pretty much the game winner. So just I won't necessarily say miscommunication on the back end. Guys just didn't make the plays in the stretch that we was used to seeing, but defense still played solid. They played a lot of bend, don't break defense, and they just broke on that last drive when Dak was able to find Tolbert for the touchdown.
I mean, the thing that's frustrating for me about this game, Pat, as a Steelers fan is, Dak did make a clutch play. But overall, he threw 2 interceptions. One was a horrible interception at the end of the first half with CD, which we'll get to what happened after that in a second here. So you had that play. He also threw kind of a careless interception where it looked like Joey Porter Jr. was the intended target on the play late in the fourth quarter and not the receiver. So he has an up and down game. Lamb did virtually nothing. He had 4 catches. He was barely targeted in the second half. So the quarterback doesn't play great. Their number one weapon has a quiet game. And you got beat by Jalen Tolbert, Jake Ferguson, and Rico Dowdle had the best game in his NFL career. And that's what drives me nuts, is that you take away the other team's best player and you lose. Like, usually you do that, Pat. That's the recipe to win. That's the old Belichick theory. Take away their best guy offensively, we'll win that game. And it didn't work for the Steelers tonight. Or this morning.
Yeah, this morning. But yeah, it didn't work. And as a defense, that's what you want to do. You want to be able to take the team best target or best thing that they do out. Try to force them to beat you left-handed. And that's what those role players did today. They came up and played a heck of a game. I thought Joey Porter did an outstanding job on CD majority of the night. And that's where the other guys that's apart from Joey going to have to come up, have to play big as well in order for that defense to continue to be successful.
Well, we lost you, and we have a slot corner who's an undrafted rookie. And no offense to Beanie Bishop, but he looked like it tonight. I mean, the bright lights were on. That's a tough spot for a kid. He's been the starter, basically, undrafted rookie from day one, which is pretty much unheard of. And America saw why it's tough to put somebody in that role who has such little experience and obviously does not have much draft pedigree either. Pat, I am now wondering what happens offensively with the Steelers coming out of this game, because we've talked about on the podcast how Justin Fields has answered most of the big questions about him through the first 4 games of the year, almost orchestrated that comeback at the Colts game I was at last week. He had a great final drive with a touchdown that put the Steelers back on top. But otherwise, this offense was a rough watch pretty much the entire evening. They got Sayamalu back at guard, who's their best offensive lineman. They still cannot run the ball at all. And this is one of the worst run defenses in the league. And they didn't have Micah Parsons or DeMarcus Lawrence either, Pat. So I thought they were going to be able to run the ball, maybe not at will, but better than 14 carries for 42 yards from Najee. And the other thing is with Pickens, if you're going to come out and have something on your face that says, always effing open, I need you to make more plays, brother. I do. I mean, when you put that on your face during the game, all of America sees it. I mean, your ball goes through your hands in the second half. You've got 2 catches. You made a nice play on that last drive where you got hit out of bounds. And he probably got hit out of bounds because I think their defensive backs just get so tired of hearing him talk bleep the entire game. So in that way, I'm happy that he does that, I guess, because he got the extra 15 or the halfway to the goal, half the distance to the goal. But it's just it reminded me a lot of the offense that I watched for last year, Pat, when you were there. Just the struggles and the stops and starts and never really being able to get their footing or finding any rhythm in the game, honestly.
Yeah, today was a tough watch for the offense. And it's going to come down, looks like it's going to come down to a decision on, who Coach Tomlin wants to have at quarterback moving forward. Justin didn't play horrible, having 15 to 27, 131 yards, 2 tubs. But still the ball wasn't being moved, as efficient as it was, weeks prior, so coach got a decision coming up. We'll see what decision that he's going to make. I saw earlier today that he was saying that he's going to try to hold on to that decision as long as possible, far as if Justin is able to continue to perform to the level that he feels that it's appreciated for the team. And now they're 3-2.
He's lost 2 in a row, and he scored 17 points. And I mean, the thing that Melissa Stark reported with Russell Wilson, where he said that he thinks he'll be ready to go next week. And then this is why I think he's going to be their starter. This drove me crazy. He's saying that he has a catchphrase for this season that starts next week. Win the 7th. Like, if you think you're the backup, you're not telling the reporter for NBC what your catchphrase for the season is, are you? I mean, that just, I don't know. I heard that and I'm like, oh my God, at least Russell Wilson in his head thinks he's getting his job back very, very soon.
We'll see.
So obviously I'm delirious right now and not in a great mood because I stayed up all night and watched the Steelers.
You and I both.
Yeah, man, that's true. Let's get to the early game now. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, I have to just ask you this quickly. The CeeDee Lamb thing with Dak that they made such a big deal out of. He comes to the sideline after that interception and he says, jump ball 4. I think meaning my interpretation was, give me some air on it so I can go up and get it instead of putting the ball where he did, where Jackson picked it off. And Collinsworth and Tirico made such a big deal of Dak not even looking at him or wanting to have a conversation with him. And then whether it was the Steelers coverage, he just got frozen out, it seemed, in the second half. So you speak wide receiver language, having lined up against them for so long. What do you think happened there?
Yeah, it looked like CD was looking for a little bit more air on the ball so he can have an opportunity to go for it. But honestly, it looked like CD wasn't even ready for the ball. To be
Mhm.
to be quite honest with you, I think Dak, in my opinion, looking at it, it looked like Dak thought CD was probably running to like the front pylon versus the back pylon. So it looks like it looked like it was a miscommunication between the quarterback and the receiver. But far as the quarterback not talking to the receiver after the play, I mean that happens all the time. You know, Dak have a lot of things on his plate on his mind. So I'm sure he hear the receivers chirping all the time. He's more focused on trying to figure out what happened on that specific play and trying to get better on the next drive. But it looked like CD was asking for more air on the ball, but it looked like he wasn't even ready for the football. So it was kind of a
You know,
weird
your buddy
situation.
Bruce Arians used to say when those things happen, 99% of the time it's the wide receiver's fault. That's what he would always say. He said if there's a
Hey,
quarterback wide receiver miscommunication, I can guarantee he would say I can guarantee it was the wide receiver who screwed up and not the
probably,
quarterback. Uh, let's
probably.
get let's get to the Jets and Vikings, the early game.
Hmm.
There's a lot of different ways to look at this game. I'll start with this. This is the third game in 5 weeks that the Jets were held under 20 points with Aaron
Hmm.
Rodgers, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, a better offensive line, and the offensive coordinator that Aaron Rodgers loves and wanted and kept there because the guy was a horrible head coach in Denver, but he
Hmm.
swears by the guy Hackett. What's wrong with the Jets offense, Pat?
Like I said last week, man, it just seemed like um, a lot of guys are not. Well, this week they looked a little better. I will say that. You know, came out a little sluggish, going down early in that game, 17-0. Then the team seemed like they started to get a little bit more momentum, but they just started a little bit too slow. I feel like the Jets need like another bona fide number two receiver. I know they have
Well, we're probably
Lazar.
going to get one, and he's in
Yeah,
Vegas right now.
yeah, probably are is going to get one. Mike Williams, he's a solid guy, but it looks like he's still coming back from his injury. So
Guy's
I feel
really
like
hurt. I feel bad for him. He just had a
yeah,
horrible history of injuries.
yeah, so it just seemed like they don't have anybody else to get the ball to right now, you know. So um I feel like that's the biggest part. And no running game. They need a much more solid run game because we all know how Aaron really thrives off the play action, the hard count, and things like that. We're just not seeing, you know, what we've uh, been used to seeing Aaron Rodgers play like in Green Bay. You know, so I really feel if they make a big trade here in the deadline, before the deadline, getting Devontae Adams, I think it really can take their offense over the hump.
You know, I'm going to actually give him not a free pass because he's Aaron Rodgers,
Hmm.
but in the because the Sunday night football game took forever, so they recapped all these games longer than usual. And so it was really a harsh critique of the Jets watching the NBC people discuss the game, Chris Sims and those guys. And I was like on my couch thinking, can we say something positive about the Vikings defense? Is that going to
Yeah.
kill someone on set to say, well, wait a minute, the Niners, Brock Purdy looked like he was lost against these
Mhm.
guys. Jordan Love, they ended up putting up points, but he threw 3 interceptions, and a lot of it came when they were already in a huge hole. So
Mhm.
kind of hollow stats and hollow numbers. Aaron Rodgers looked off in this game, but most guys look at CJ Stroud, what he did against Minnesota. He had his worst game of his career.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't think that this is a good the opponent defensively has been so strong that I don't think it's a panic button inducing loss. I think this sucks for the Jets that in back-to-back weeks they've gone up against Denver's defense, which is highly underrated, and now
Hmm.
the Vikings defense, which might be the best in the league. Pat, I mean, it's right there with the Chiefs defense, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Best defense.
Yeah. It really is just how they're able to confuse quarterbacks each and every week. They got Aaron Rodgers 3 times today,
2 in
twice.
the first quarter, that never
Yeah,
happened.
I just about to say 2 times in the first quarter. You know, so it's definitely, to me, you have to give the Vikings defense some credit because they've been doing it on a consistent basis. better than anybody out there in the National Football League besides the Kansas City Chiefs. So Brian Flores again, another outstanding game plan this week, and it showed across the pond. It just goes to show that his game plan can travel anywhere. All right, let's move on to this Bills and Texas game. Crazy finish. Did the Bills lose it, or did the Texans win it?
Bills lost it, and Sean McDermott did something that I almost never see a coach do. He pretty much apologized for the way he managed the game at the end. For those that didn't see it, what ended up happening was in a tie game, the Bills, after a punt, Houston surprisingly didn't go for it around in Bills territory. They punted, they pinned him deep. And then Houston had 3 timeouts, but there was only 20 seconds left, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffalo, instead of making Houston use all their timeouts and having virtually no time to do anything, they threw the ball 3
Took
times.
19 seconds off the clock.
And they were low percentage plays. They were downfield throws. They weren't even like quick hitters. And it just allowed for Houston to keep the timeouts and then use the middle of the field. If they had to burn all 3 timeouts, they would have never been able to do a little quick throw over the middle and set their kicker up for a long field goal. So when you've got a close game like this in an even matchup, I think sometimes it does boil down to decisions that coaches make. And I don't really know what a defensive-minded coach like Sean McDermott was thinking in that situation. I really don't. Why he would say, I know that Josh Allen, he puts his trust in his quarterback, but you're airing the ball out like that in that situation, that made no sense to me. That's why they lost. The game should have gone to overtime.
Yeah, I agree. The game definitely should have gone in overtime. Only taking 19 seconds off the clock. Like you say, you have to force Houston to burn all of their timeouts. You have to. So now the situation is heightened even more for them. Now is much more of a the pressure's now on them trying to get the ball out of bounds or get the ball in field position to kick a field goal. Now they have that extra timeout, so their play call is a little bit different. So that was horrible coach clock management by the Buffalo Bills in that fourth quarter, and I agree with you 100%. 100%. The Bills lost this game, and it took me back to the playoff game they played there in 2020.
Oh, I remember that game with
yes.
Josh. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a lot of clock management and wacky stuff going on in that game. So looked like that building might have the Buffalo Bills haunted right now.
And it's a bet. Now Buffalo has lost games to Baltimore and Houston. So when these tiebreakers come into play for home field advantage and first round bye and things like that, they're now put at a huge disadvantage, having lost these 2 games. And we'll see next week. They got to play the Jets on Monday Night Football if they can still control the AFC East. Browns and Commanders. Kevin Stefanski after the game, we're not changing quarterbacks. What's your reaction to that statement, Pat?
It's time to change the quarterback. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. When Deshaun Watson is in the lineup, it seems to be that we can't win ball games. And that sucks. And I hate to say it, but look at the record, and today it was another bad outing by Deshaun Watson. Not able to move the ball down the field, can't find receivers, 15 or 28 to 125 yards, 4-point yards in average, 77.2 quarterback ratings. That's just not winning football, especially when you have a defense that's as talented as the Cleveland Browns. And they're out there on the field getting worn out, play drive after drive because they're on the field way too long. So we have to find a quarterback that's going to play complementary football. And right now, Deshaun Watson have not been doing that. He's not doing that right now. And quite honestly, since he's been there, he's not been winning football games. So I know you guys. I know the Cleveland Browns gave him a fully guaranteed contract which was their fault, and they got to eat that contract. But if you're trying to win, if you're really trying to win football games, you're seeing that your starting quarterback right now is not giving you the best opportunity to do that. So if you're really worried to focus on winning football games, I think it's about that time to look into making a quarterback change.
I think, and here's how I think you would. I don't know Deshaun Watson personally at all, but if I were Kevin Stefanski right now, I would sit him down and say, look, maybe part of this is you're not seeing the game well. Maybe you're putting too much pressure on yourself. I'd tell him, I get it. I'm taking some of the blame too. I haven't done a great job as a play caller. Our offensive line has been hideous. We don't have Nick Chubb. So you're not the only reason why we're losing right now, but you're making a lot of money, and we don't want to completely lose you. You taking all these hits and losing these games, your confidence is completely shot.
Yeah.
So let's get somebody else in there and at least give you a couple of weeks to just maybe chill out and unplug. I mean, I would half mean that, but at the same time, I would be thinking to myself, if Jameis went in there and played well, screw this guy. And, I mean, you've got, look, for them, it's like it's the worst albatross contract in the entire NFL.
Right.
Pat, but you've got to be honest to the guys in that locker room. They're putting out an honest effort. They've got a backup quarterback who's won in the league before. We know he can make plays. You saw Joe Flacco go in there last year and win. You just can't keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You can't. We've seen backup quarterbacks go in and win games.
Yep.
And Jameis was a first overall pick. See what he looks like in this offense. Maybe it's not as good. I don't know. But but to me, that alternative sounds better than just expecting and keeping your fingers crossed that the light bulb's going to go on for Deshaun Watson. I don't see it.
Yeah. It don't look like it's going to go off anytime soon. And I don't, like you said, I don't know if it's, everything that's going on outside of football, or, just not real comfortable with what's going on in the offensive scheme. He just don't look confident at all. Just out there playing. He just look like he's seeing ghosts, and just missing wide open. In the league, that's wide open. Missing wide open throws, throwing the ball in the dirt. And mind you, a couple, receivers are dropping some wide open passes out there as well. But when you're the quarterback, a lot of the wins and losses are going to weigh on your shoulders. That's just how the nature of the business is, and the head coach as well, the nature of the business. So if Coach Kevin is trying to save his job and trying to get this offense moving in the right direction, he might want to think long and hard about that comment he made yesterday. All right, Cardinals 49ers. I said on Thursday, 49ers can win a Super Bowl without McCaffrey. Do we need to walk that back?
I said the same thing, so I will right now. And I'm not saying that like he is the only missing ingredient, but having watched that game today, it just hit me. I've got to be objective about the team I've watched play football this year. I can't give this current team credit for what the 2023 49ers did. They've lost all three of their NFC games. They've beaten the Patriots and Aaron Rodgers playing his first game back off of an Achilles injury, and they've lost to everybody else. Kyler Murray started the game. He looked like he was running. If you like try to fast forward on your DVR, it's like he was moving at that pace and everybody else was in slow motion. It made no sense.
Right.
They're just careless plays. The fourth down conversion that Murray had at the end of the game, bad blocking leads to that Purdy deflected pass that gets intercepted late. It's just, right now, San Francisco, they had a lot of drama this offseason, and guys were trying to get contracts, and that delayed the team building process. And I think my opinion is that like there's correlation there. I do think some of this is bled into the season and how they've played. We've seen 49ers teams under Shanahan have maybe not rough first half of the seasons, but second halves were way better than the first. So I'm not ruling out the possibility of that right now. But today, because, the odds makers will disagree. And I think even if you ask some of the people on TV this question, Pat, if you said, pick a team to win the Super Bowl out of the NFC, the Vikings or the 49ers,
I think a lot of people would still say San Francisco. I'm not going to say that. I'm sorry. I think Purdy's played better. I didn't think he played a great game today. But I have to react to them. For a while, Pat, in college football, now this doesn't count because they lost to Vanderbilt, but for years, if Alabama or Georgia lost a game, people would still say they're the best team in college football because their talent. And it's like the results didn't even matter. Let's still rank them number one. They're still the best team in the country. Who cares that Georgia lost the SEC championship? They should still be in the playoff because they're one of the 4 best teams. This is not a power ranking committee sport. Wins and losses matter. And you lose a game like this today at home to Arizona, I have to respond negatively to that.
Yeah, I agree. This was not a game they should have won this game, but like you said, just poor play. I won't necessarily say poor play, just not good decision making. Good decision making on the players on the 49ers on the offensive side of the ball.
Jordan Mason had a big fumble.
Yeah, a lot of self-inflicted wounds in that ball game on the offensive side of the football. Like you said, I thought Brock Purdy played solid. Brandon Ayuk having a huge game, looking like himself, having 147 yards reception, and with the running game, the opponent they still had 157 yards rushing as a team.
Yeah,
so they're
you can
still
win with
running.
that.
Yeah, you can win with that. So they just have to. They can't shoot themselves in the foot because they still open up that game, with a 23, it was 23-10. So it was the Arizona Cardinals came out on fire in the second half and shutting the 49ers down in the second half, which caused them to have the ability to come back. But go ahead.
It's just 2 times they've had big leads in the second half against teams they were supposed to beat. The Rams, who were banged up, and the Cardinals at home, and they lost both.
Yep.
And that's not what championship teams do.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say as well. They just have to find ways to finish ball games because especially these last 2 weeks, they just haven't been able to finish the ball game. Well, not just the last 2 weeks against their NFC opponents. They haven't been able to finish ball games.
Ravens and Bengals, speaking of championships, Joe Burrow comes out afterwards and says, we're not a championship level team. After they lose in overtime. They're now 1-4. They're 0-3 at home. Why are the Bengals not their usual selves? Why are they not a championship level team, Pat?
The defense. Defense can't stop anyone right now. Offense seemed to get themselves, going. The momentum and the confidence seems to be growing on the offensive side of the ball, but the defense is just not good enough as far as a championship defense. They can make plays in spurts, but they have to be more consistent for them in order for them to be a championship football team. Because we all know Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are in that Cincinnati offense is going to put up numbers. Now, are you going to be able to stop people? When it matters most. And as of thus far this season, the Cincinnati Bengals defense have not been able to do that. So, and that's not a championship, pedigree or championship winning football. So that's why the Cincinnati Bengals are not, at a championship level right now.
You score 38 points, you should never lose.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not like the Big 12 or, this is not arena football. In the NFL, you score 38 points, you should win every game. Now, I will say, though, having watched that game, that for as great as Burrow played statistically, you see 5 touchdowns. 2 things they did in this game, I think, are going to haunt them and why we're having this conversation about them. And the question isn't, are the Bengals back? He threw a terrible interception that when they were on the fringe of field goal position late in regulation, he tried to force one into Chase. It got intercepted by Humphrey. That allowed for Baltimore to set Tucker up with the field goal, a long one that tied it. So, Joe's got to make a better either throw or decision to not try to squeeze a ball in there in that spot. And then the thing that bothered me even more than that, Pat, because, okay, I said kind of a mental error because he forced it, but you're trying to get the ball. And Spencer said that Jamar Chase blamed himself. Okay, you're trying to get the ball to your playmaker there in single coverage. That's not the worst play in the world. I still expect them to execute it, though. The play that bothers the decision that bothers me the most is Lamar Jackson fumbles in overtime. You get the ball, and they played for a long field goal.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that? You've got this offense that's been unbelievably potent all day. If I'm the Ravens, I'm like, you want to run the ball into the line of scrimmage with Chase Brown 3 times for like a yard every time and just settle for a 54-yard field goal? Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because when you actually played to win or played to score, you move the ball up and down on us all day. If they had been more aggressive there, Pat, they probably would have had like a 40-yard chip shot to win the game. Instead, they don't execute the snap and the hold. The guy misses it, and then Baltimore, Derrick Henry does Derrick Henry things, and they lose. So that's my thing. Like, you're such a great if you're all offense and bad defensively, keep your foot on the gas.
Yes.
In that situation.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I was completely shocked that they ran the ball 3 times, seeing and knowing the game that Joe Burrow was having. He was 30 of 39 in that game. 392 yards, and he didn't have an opportunity to throw the ball one time. I thought that was really, really crazy.
And Taylor, after the game, said, well, bad things can happen there. You can turn it over. You can get sacked. You can take a penalty. What the hell kind of like philosophy is that?
Yeah, that's not. I wouldn't want to hear that from my coach, especially if I was Joe Burrow. I'm not.
Well,
trying
you
to
don't trust me because I threw an interception earlier in the game.
That's what it sounded like. That's exactly what it sounded
like. Panthers and Bears next here, Pat. Caleb Williams played his best game yet.
He did.
But does it come with a grain of salt because it's Carolina?
No, it don't come with a grain of salt. I thought Caleb looked very good in this game. He looked like he had a little bit more understanding and a little bit more he was a little bit more comfortable in the pocket. His pocket awareness was much better this week. So that's something to, that you can, really, really lean your hat on as a young quarterback. Looking forward into the young quarterback, and just really threw the ball, on time. Got the ball out on time pretty much throughout that ball game here yesterday. So it's a lot to grow on from this football game, and I won't, like I said, don't come with a grain of salt just because it's the Panthers. You still want to see the growth that the young quarterback is taking week in and week out. And I feel like this week was definitely his biggest step into the right direction in his career.
He got the ball to DJ Moore. And we know that DJ Moore was a big fan of Justin Fields, and we've already had an incident earlier in the year where it seemed like Moore was extremely frustrated with Williams not being able to get him the ball because they're holding Williams to a high standard there. The expectation isn't that he goes through rookie growing pains. The expectation is that the Bears make the playoffs because of the team they had last year and the weapons there and the moves they went out and made this offseason. So that's why DJ Moore is like, okay, I'm not here to waste another year with a first-year quarterback and go 7-10. And so for those guys, especially for Moore playing against his old team, I think that too, like you want to get that guy going. You want to make him feel good going up against the team that traded him. So I thought that was important. And the only other thing I'll say about this game is we got to be getting close to the point again where the Panthers see what Bryce Young has learned from watching. You're getting blown out again now. No offense to Andy Dalton, who's a great backup quarterback and had a wonderful career. But the future in Carolina is not Andy Dalton.
No.
So if you're going to get blown out here, the last 2 games to Cincinnati and Chicago, I'm not even saying that Bryce Young needs to play the rest of the year. I mean, if they think he's that fried right now and that out of it, then maybe you do continue to sit him. But after that first game where the offense looked great, water has found its level again. And if I was the GM of that team, I would ask my coach, like, do you think we're going to stunt his growth even more if we put him back in? If your answer is no, then I think we should do it. Or maybe you think it's not going to do him any good going back in because he's just going to get pounded again. They're going to lose games and he's going to look bad.
Yeah, that was going to be my answer. I think if they put him back in there, he's going to get pounded again, just as Andy Dalton got pounded today, and his growth is going to continue to be stunned because there is no one at this point in the season. There's no one in there no one in the offense that can pretty much, get him to be better than what he have been already. It's too late because we got coaches that's going to be in, game planning, trying to get the game film study on the other team. So there's only so much you can do throughout the season, to help better your quarterback. So yeah, he's just going to continue to get banged up. The offense continue going to not move the ball up and down the field, and it's going to be a bad look. So I'll leave him out and wait till they get a better offensive lineman, or if they really feel that Bryce is their future.
Yeah,
just leave him out the rest of the year, man, because it's just going to make matters that much more worse. All right, let's move on to the Giants and the Seahawks. Man, that was a crazy game, by the way. New York blocks the field goal. Isaiah Simmons jumps over the long snapper to block the field goal. But how about this? Daniel Jones, best game of his career?
Well, you played him in the playoffs, and so that's probably his best game overall because he won a playoff game and he didn't play like a complete knucklehead in that game. But as far as the regular season goes, here is why I'm going to give him huge props. Malik Neighbors didn't play. So let's just start right there. Your best weapon, the guy that, other than Jaden Daniels, has been the rookie sensation of the NFL, doesn't play. You're down him. Devin Singletary, not a great running back. He's no Saquon Barkley, but he's a solid NFL running back. And your backup is a rookie who was picked on day 3 of the draft from Purdue. So you're down 2 guys, 1 star, 1 dependable player. No one thinks your offensive line is great. And now you're going to Seattle, the 12th man. Their defense has been good other than the Lions total. There was no incompletions in that game. But before that, Seattle was undefeated with a great defensive coach. And so to go up there and he made some great throws. He threw the first touchdown pass of the game. He threw where he dropped it right in there. Looked like it was like a corner route or something. Was a tremendous play by him. And so, yeah, here's the thing about Daniel Jones, Pat. I think, and this is why he was a top 10 pick. There's enough talent in there where once in a blue moon you see a game like this. It just doesn't happen consistently enough. And the problem is it happens just enough where I think there are coaches out there and GMs out there who think that there's a really good quarterback in there somewhere.
Yeah, like you said, he definitely shows flashes time and time again. And like I said, when they played the Cleveland Browns, I had to take back what I said about them the beginning of the year. And I'm a man, I have to own up to what I said, and I definitely take back the words I did that I shared at the beginning of the season about Daniel Jones, because the talent is there, and he's been showing that the last 2 weeks with a solid game. I won't call it a monster game, but another solid game to help his team win down in Seattle, which is a tough place to win, and it didn't faze him at all.
Yeah, I mean, I know that one of those touchdowns were special teams, but still, you scored 29 points in Seattle. I mean, no one would have expected that from the Giants today. They were a touchdown underdog. I'm happy that you brought up Cleveland, though, because when the season started, I think, people that do our job were discussing Daniel Jones the same way they were talking about Deshaun Watson. Like, can this guy even play quarterback anymore? Does he look like an NFL starting quarterback? And honestly, the last 3 games, I think he has. They lost to the Cowboys on Thursday night. He made, I think, solid throws, short and intermediate, missed some deep throws. But, I mean, looked like a guy you could win with in that game. So it'll be interesting. Like, the bottom line for him is I don't think he's going to play well enough where the Giants are going to want to keep him as their starting quarterback. But he might play well enough where a coach who's got a great offensive system thinks I can get him here and we can win with him, a la like Sam Darnold in Minnesota this year, what Baker Mayfield has been able to do in Tampa.
Yeah,
okay,
I mean, I think he can win somewhere else for sure. Because like I said, like the talent's there. He has great arm power, arm strength. So he just probably just need to be, with the right offensive staff to really help his talents flourish.
Raiders and Broncos. Okay, so Denver blew out Vegas. Adams didn't play. Gardner Minshew gets benched. He threw 2 interceptions, long 100-yard pick 6 in this game. But the thing that everybody was talking about afterwards was this incident on the sideline between Bo Nix and Sean Payton, where Nix just exploded on him. Usually it's the other way around, where like the coach is the guy who gets in the face of the rookie quarterback. The rookie quarterback unloaded on the Super Bowl winning head coach. So I'm curious, as a guy, Pat, that's seen sideline blowups sometimes between coaches and quarterbacks, what's your reaction to the first-year guy losing his mind on the veteran head coach in this situation?
Oh man, that was fun to watch, to be quite honest with you, because you don't see that. You don't see a rookie head coach going after, like you said, a Super Bowl winning head coach. Better yet, Coach Sean Payton, who coached Drew Brees, who's about to be in the Hall of Fame here.
I've never seen Drew Brees do that to Sean Payton in the 10 years they were together.
Exactly, and you never seen that vice versa. And we all know Coach Sean is a very, very fiery guy. We've seen him, have blow up moments on the sideline before with the referees, with other players. So we know that it's definitely in there. So Coach Sean may liked it. He said, now the young fella is now challenging me. So and that probably is going to help, give Bo Nix some confidence. You know what I mean? So we saw that from Jaden Daniels a couple times, trying to get his coaches, yelling at his coaches on the sideline. So this might be a new day and age of young quarterbacks coming in and taking over right away.
Well, I think you just hit on the key word. He's really not that young. He played a million games in college, so he's older than some quarterbacks that have been in the league for 2 or 3 years. It's just, this is the second time this has happened with Denver. Last year, around this time, they lost to Miami by 50 points. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
20.
Yep.
And I came on this podcast, and Danny and I were talking about it, and I'm just like, Peyton pulled an Urban Meyer. He took a huge contract, all this guaranteed money, and he doesn't give a bleep. He's just, he probably would prefer to be on TV, but he couldn't say no to the money. And it's just going to be a disaster there. And then they rallied big time, and they beat teams like the Chiefs, and they beat teams like the Bills, and they beat teams like the Vikings, and they put it together, and it's just happening earlier this season.
Yeah.
I did not think, after watching their first 2 games against Seattle and the Steelers, that they would score 34 points maybe in a month, let alone one. And we've said all year, we were early on Vance Joseph, what a great coach and what a good job he's done with their defense. Everyone's talking about Jaden Daniels in Washington, and for good reason. But Denver is a very sneaky 3-2. And Nix and Payton, that marriage is working much better than I thought it would, even given some of the strife and friction that we saw play out on the sideline today. So I got to give them credit. Their over-under in Vegas was like 5 or 6 wins this year. They're going to hit that easily, Pat. They might beat for a playoff spot with the way they're playing defensively right now.
Yeah, they're playing. Vance got the defense. Coach Vance Joseph got the defense flying around right now, as he always do. In all the spots that he's been, his defense has always been a top-ranked defense, and really hanging his hat on the secondary, because I know that he loves to bring pressure, and he's a secondary defensive back by trade himself. So he loved to put and rely on the guys in the back end, and we saw that on display here again with Patrick Surtain having 2 interceptions and 1 for 100 yards. Jacksonville coach Trevor Lawrence plays his best game on his 25th birthday. Signs to things to come?
Well, Here's why I'm going to say yes to this, because I am always looking for some morsel or some sliver of hope that Trevor Lawrence is the guy that went number 1 overall and has the Andrew Luck qualities sprinkled in with like a little Patrick Mahomes and everything that made people think he was a generational quarterback. And I think you and I have both evaluated him and watched him and thought through the first 4 or 5 games, like, this guy's pocket awareness and pocket presence is just horrendous. He looks very uncomfortable. He doesn't trust his eyes. His recognition of where the pressure is coming from is just brutal. And he did all of those things better today. And so we know it's in there now. We know that he's capable. And so can he build off of this? I mean, we've seen the guy get hot before. He played great in the first half of last year. He played great at the end of the 2022 season when they went to Kansas City and lost in the playoffs and had that huge comeback against the Chargers in the playoff game before. And that game actually is a microcosm of that. He sucked in the first half and was amazing in the second half. So he's a very streaky player, Pat.
Yeah.
And maybe he's coming off of a cold streak and he's going to get hot, but they needed him to deliver, because Joe Flacco, again today, that dude was just standing in there and just chucking it and making plays like it was backyard ball again. Just, he was in sync. Timing was good. If Joe Flacco had a clean pocket, he got the ball out in like 2.5 seconds and it was where it needed to be. So Lawrence needed his A game today, and thankfully for the Jags, he brought it to avoid going 0-5. And like we said on the podcast Thursday, I thought if they lost this game, people were going to get fired there. So he saved some jobs today, in my opinion.
Yeah, he definitely saved some jobs today. It was good to see Trevor get back to the 2022 Trevor Lawrence of just seemed comfortable in the pocket, running the football with some well, he didn't have many runs today, but throwing the ball with confidence, stepping up in the pocket when he needed to, just looked like himself. And they really, like you said, they needed this game. They really did needed this game, going into this game 0-4. And kind of the odds was kind of going against going in their favor anyway, because the Colts haven't won a football game there since 2014. Yep. That's 10 years. So the odds was kind of going in their favor heading into this ball game, and now we see why the Colts haven't been able to win there in the last 10 years. But a great win for Trevor and Coach Doug. Let's see if they can keep it going. And like you said, he is a very streaky guy, and hopefully now he's off that cold streak. Because who do the Colts have coming up next? Let's see.
Well, Jacksonville, Colts, I know Jacksonville goes to London for 2 weeks, and they sometimes get a little boost from that because they get to hang out over there for 2 weeks and play like they did last year when they beat.
So they have the Titans and the Dolphins next 2 weeks.
Yeah, so that's who the Colts play. Yeah, we'll see if Richardson got ruled out late in the week, so we'll see if they stick with Flacco. They probably should, and I'd take my time with Richardson and make sure he's completely healthy with the way Flacco performed.
And what was Richardson injured? Is it his hip or ribs?
I think it's his hip. You don't like that?
I don't. I take my time. Because last year it was his shoulder, this year is his hip. All mobile quarterback problems.
Yeah, and he does not play the game. He does not play it in a very safe, protective way. He's putting himself out there. Packers, Rams, Dolphins, Patriots. Anything on either one of these two games?
I told you last week about the Patriots and the Dolphin game. Ain't nobody care. That was 10-15. I don't think many people watched that ball game. I watched the ball game, but it was that's what it was. The Packers Rams, that was a very, very entertaining game. It looked like Jordan Love was still trying to get the kinks out in the first half, throwing a pick six, in that game to close out that first half for the Rams, and then just came out in the second half on fire. Just looked like a young Aaron Rodgers, just the way he's zipping the ball, throwing the ball off his back leg, the poise that he have in the pocket. He's one of those young quarterbacks that I really, really enjoy watching in the National Football League because I feel like he's taking the lead by storm by having that opportunity to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. Mind you, that's Aaron Rodgers, but having that opportunity to take that back seat and really understand and digest everything that's going on, that counts into being a great quarterback. Now he's starting to flourish. So great second half by Jordan Love.
He threw one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen in my life in that game. I mean, that decision on that pick six, he just like chucked it when he was at his own goal line and threw it towards the sideline right to a Rams player who took 2 steps and scored. I mean, that's I just a guy that had such a incredible second half of the season and showed such poise. I was stunned that he made such a senseless decision there. And if they had lost the game, that would be replayed and played back, and he'd be getting all the blame for the loss. So I guess kudos to him for being able to overcome such a ridiculous play. The only thing I'll say about the Dolphins and Patriots is it just goes to show you, man, you enjoy it while you're in it. Any Patriot fan who took for granted or didn't appreciate their 20 years of dominance and got sick of it or tired of it or, thought it was their birthright to be in the AFC Championship game every year. You had that, and it was probably the longest dynasty in NFL history. Now you are completely irrelevant. I mean, in my opinion, you are the least interesting team in the entire NFL. And so I guess that's the way it probably should work. Yeah, it's a league of parity. No one should have such sustained excellence. And when you do, you should have to pay a price for it on the back end. And that's what's happening now because that was not an enjoyable game after they had 2 decades of great memories there in Foxborough. Those people should have to drive home to wherever they live in, suburban Boston and Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont and have to endure crappy games after winning their 6 Super Bowls. So I like that, everything comes back around and they get their comeuppance now.
Yep. Back to reality.
Thank you for this podcast that happened at an unbelievable hour. You even got it right saying yesterday because this is Monday and most of these games did happen on Sunday. Dak Prescott, credit to him. He threw an interception on Sunday and Monday. I don't think that had ever happened in NFL history. So he did set a record and the Cowboys got to win. Thanks to Spencer Ray. We'll be back on Thursday. Seahawks and 49ers and a full slate of NFL games. Hey, listen and subscribe to First and Pod. Search 1ST and Pod and tell your friends to listen. We recap every Thursday and Sunday game. Talk to you next week.